It's been said that every single person has a book inside them, but the vast majority of us never take the time to put that story into writing and release it into the world. So how does one write a book? Well, I've never done it before, so I can't tell you, but my friend Jacob Johnson has. And in today's video, I'm going to be sharing his tips on how to write a book. Roll the intro. Hello everyone, my name is Zachary Dale Fair and I'm a storyteller who helps you live a great story. Whether this is the first time we've met or you've seen some of my videos before, be sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, do all the things. It would mean the world to me. This past weekend I got to hang out with my friends Jake and Vanessa Johnson. They are missionaries to Botswana, and in Jake's free time, he managed to publish a novel called A King's Return, and it's the first one in a trilogy that he's working on. If you're into fantasy novels, be sure to check it out. The link is in the description of this video. I've never published a book, but I've always wanted to, and I imagine many of you are the exact same way. So I sat Jake down and we talked for an hour about life, college, calling, and most importantly, how to write a book. And in today's video, I've pulled the highlights of our conversation to give you guys the best tips on how to write a book from Jake Johnson.
You know, I would never say that I felt like, yes, I want to be a professional writer or whatever one day. But I love...
You didn't feel like being the next Stephen King
No.
or whatever.
Yeah. That was never on that. It was always missions, right?
Sure.
But I love stories like Lord of the Rings. Wow, I'm blanking on it right now. C.S. Lewis's
Chronicles of Narnia.
Thank you. I was thinking Lion, Witch, and Wardrobe, but I'm like, yes, but no.
Right.
And just in that area too, you know. But I love Star Wars. You know,
sci-fi, superheroes,
all that stuff, and all of us love a good story, right? Even Jesus taught in story format, and for me, you know, what was so impactful about like Lord of the Rings and Chronicles of Narnia and all these others is especially those two, though, the example of this hope that we have as Christians, right?
Yeah.
Woven into a story that is not, you know, the word Jesus is not mentioned in them.
It's not explicitly Christian. Yeah.
But there is a hope, right? In a story full of worlds that have darkness, that have villains, that have treachery, betrayal, a world like our own, right?
Yeah.
That we can relate with those heroes. It's not just all rainbows and sunshine, just like our world, but there is a king, right? There's a lion. There's, you know, a ring that can free us, right? If you destroy the ring, at least, right? There's someone carrying that burden for us, right? Or there's the promised king to return.
Yeah.
And so I've always loved stories like that. You know, they've inspired me. They move me emotionally.
Right. Stories of hope in the midst of dark climates.
So, I can remember the day we were driving to a church here in Iowa. It was a snowy day in Iowa, so I was like spacing off while I was driving, and this outline of this 3-book series kind of popped in my brain, right? And you know, I'm not talking about word for word or anything like that, but just the framework,
a general idea of a 3-part story popped in your brain.
And I just, you know, I thought, this is I can get with this story, right? Like I enjoy it. I can see the pictures. I can see the places. It's almost like images, right, flashing. And I wrestled with it. I thought, man, we're in the middle of iteration right now. I just had a brand new baby. I'm not going to have time to write a book, and let alone knowing in my heart I was going to have to write 3 books. Yeah. So even when I finished the first one, I'm still two-thirds of the ways I got to go, right, to get the finish line. So I shirked the thought and kind of placed it on the table for about a month or two. But just, you know, kept coming back to it, right? Kept thinking about ideas. Kept thinking about, like, man, like, what if I wrote this book, right? Maybe it is a story that's worth telling. And finally, one day I sat down and drew up a map. I found like a map maker website and put it all together. And I thought, all right, Lord, started laying out the story. And one of the things that was really, really important to me in writing this book was that someone who was not a Christian, someone who doesn't care anything about Jesus or what we believe, could read it and enjoy it for the story itself. I think the biggest step is just starting. It's making the mental decision to say, no matter what,
Right.
I am starting this and I'm going to finish this. Maybe it takes
That
me
applies to everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so good though.
if it takes me a year and a half, so be it. I never had a word count, a daily word count, right? But I understood to create momentum, I had to keep doing it consistently.
Yeah.
There were nights where it was like, man, I do not want to write. You know what I mean?
But you have to.
But once you get started, once you take that plunge, the story kind of writes itself in a way. It's interesting. I think having an outline is helpful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you want to have a clear, the biggest thing about it, whether it's the meat or the body in between, but you need to know where you're starting and where you eventually want to get to.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to writing then, for me at least, it's a journey in between. I didn't have, every single detail, every single character, every single plot point figured out as at the beginning of writing.
Yeah.
But as I was writing, I thought, this would make it more realistic, or this would make more sense because of who this character is, right? And that leads you down paths that ultimately, because you have that bottom, the end, it helps you connect those pieces, right? So you have the two bows to tie it together, but the meat is able to be a little bit flexible, right?
What's your view on like rewriting and editing? Like what's that process like?
So for me at least, the actual retooling of the story itself, there was not a ton of that.
Okay.
So when I write all the way through. I do not edit it at all. I finish the entire book. I finish the story. I usually give myself like a day or two to just, all right, not thinking about you for a minute. And then it gives you fresh perspective to go back. So then I would read chapter by chapter, and I would look for inconsistencies in the story.
Or things that didn't make sense. Or
retooling. And I am not, by any means, I'm not a great grammar person. Like, if you read my first drafts, you'd think, this guy writes books. Like, seriously, though.
Does he even speak English?
Yeah. But I do think I can write good story, right? And at the end of the day, there were some grammar and editing things that I would like to go back and change in the first book, more so. But all of those things, that you can let that discourage you.
Yeah.
But most people, your average reader who's not like an editor, is going to not even notice it, right? But there are some things that as it's your baby, you critique it.
Right.
But that gives you the opportunity, especially if you're going to write more stories, to your next book, okay, I need to make it even better. Yeah, you can make it even better. You can catch things that you wouldn't have been able to before. It's a learning curve, right? Yeah. Like anything. There is a Facebook group of all the authors. And we all can share ideas and all that good stuff. And a lot of people on there talk about how they're on like their 5th or 6th edit, and it's just, they want to get everything absolutely perfect before they put it out there. And I do think there is a level of professionalism that you need, right? But sometimes I think, especially perfectionists, you can allow that to hamper it. You want it to be so perfect. You don't want.
The book will never be read by
anyone. It will never be perfect for any, it'll never be perfect for you. And 99.9% of your readers aren't even going to notice the mistakes, right, that you would know. And I think that's the other scary part, is releasing it, right? That when you release it out into the wider world, you open yourself for criticism. You open it for critique, and I think you have to be willing to be able to have a hard enough shell to say, I understand that not everyone's going to like this book or whatever, or it's not going to be their favorite book. Tally up your wins, right? And don't let your wins be shadowed by your, I don't even like to say losses, but maybe your more negative comments or whatever.
How do you deal with negative comments and criticism?
Yeah, I try, like anything, whether it be politics or football or I try to always see it from that person's perspective, right? And so there was a review that I had, a paid review that I had for the book.
You paid them to review it?
Yeah, basically. Cool. It's a sponsored review, and they'll put it in their magazine and stuff.
Yeah.
But they don't promise you that they're just going to give you a glowing whatever.
It's literally just to get more eyes on it.
Yes.
It's but hey, we might hate it and rip it apart.
Exactly. And one of the critiques that they gave, and I just mentioned this like a minute ago, was that it could have used maybe one more look through for like commas and maybe like a missing letter in a word. So, and in my own assessment of the book, reading it, I knew that could be true. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so, yes, it stinks. It kind of stings because you want it. You want it. Yeah. And or the snobby book reader is gonna look at this and think this is a trash book because but for me, I have to be willing to say, yes, that's realistic.
Yeah.
I can't necessarily change it right now. I could pay a lot of money to get everything redone, which at this point, maybe if it blows up and it becomes
right. And you could do like, you know how there's 10th anniversary printings, you know, like you could do like another printing years down the line and correct those things.
But what I can do, what's in my control now, is book 2 and 3 are not released, and I can make sure that I put in the effort that the critiques that were given of the book can be addressed in those books. Not by changing the story, not by changing the vision, right? But by listening to critique and how can I apply this without changing the core value of what I'm trying to do.
What other last bits of advice would you give to one future aspiring authors?
Yeah, I would say what really helped me was finding someone who had done it before, right? So I had no clue. I knew that I had a story. I knew I could write it.
Yeah.
But I didn't know how to publish. I didn't know what the best route would be. Yeah. And I would say find someone that you trust or that you know that has gone down that road already, because it's so much easier when someone's done it before you, right? That they've blazed the trail. Like, you don't need to reinvent the wheel here. You don't need to make your life as difficult as possible. And I would say, too, if you have people from multiple experiences, not everyone has this, but that have, maybe gone different routes with writing their book, it would be great to pick all their brains, because the journey's so different, because there is several routes you can do now. It's not just...
There's self-published, there's Amazon ebooks, and, all that.
And I think that comes down to, what do you want to do with it, or, like, what's your end goal with the story? Are you trying to make, buco bucks and get 1 million copies printed, whatever that is, that's what you have to decide. But I think...
What you're financially prepared to do, too.
Yeah, that's a huge part. But I think the biggest... look out. I think the biggest key is just finding someone who's done it before, right? And maybe you don't know them personally, but maybe your parents or maybe your pastor or maybe someone has someone in their sphere that's written a book or done something creative that you want to do. I had a buddy that I knew he had written a book before, and I just said, hey, man, I'm starting out on this. I have the story, but I don't know what to do. And he really helped lay out not just this is what I did, but like here are your different options.
Right.
So here's the decision to make. This may sound, very shallow or superficial, but I think we all agree. It's a literal saying, don't judge a book by its cover, right? But literally we say that because everybody judges a book by its cover. And if no one if they don't know you personally, they've never heard of the story, if your cover looks like you're saying, you printed it in your basement.
The cover looks crappy or the inside of the book looks weird.
I'd never give it the time. It could be literally the most golden,
the
beautiful
best book ever, right?
But if the cover isn't appealing, that's not going to draw readers to your book. And so no matter what you do, I think that is one of obviously the story needs to matter, like the content needs to matter, but don't settle for cheap quality when it comes to the picture or the cover, because that's what's going to draw the reader to your book in the first place.
Thank you guys so much for checking out this video. If you liked this conversation that I had with Jake, be sure to check out his book. If you like this video and you want to see more by me, check out these two that are floating right here or the links in the description. And be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you can keep up with all the videos that I'm going to be posting weekly. We'll see you in the next one.